Oh, hello. My name is Mara, and welcome to Books Like Whoa. Whew, guys, I have been filming the start of vlogs a lot today, so I've been filming like 3 or 4 different I'm about to start on this reading project kind of little clips, and I'm like, girl, what are you thinking? What were you thinking when you set your 2020 goals? But somehow it always works out. I don't know. We'll see what happens. So today we're talking about another challenge I'm setting myself. So where to even start with this? One of the things about being on BookTube or being a visible online reviewer is you get a lot of requests from people to read this, read that. Sometimes it's from a publisher. Sometimes it's, just from other people who watch you, whatever. And one of the things that I've consistently been hearing, because I am somebody who reads a lot of series and because I am a reader of sci-fi fantasy, there's a lot of requests of when are you going to read this series? When are you going to read that series? So I thought that maybe I would do a vlog of me reading the first book in 4 fantasy series that I either get asked about a lot or that I personally just am curious about my reaction to. I've had some desire to try them. And all 4 of these are very iconic fantasy series. And I'm a little nervous about 2 of them. Should I tell you what they are first? I should probably tell you what they are first. So the 4 series that I'm going to try the first book in are, first of all, The Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. Very excited about this one. This one I'm actually just about to get going on because it's in a January readathon that I'm doing. So Robin Hobb is one of the most notable female fantasy authors who started writing before 2000. And this is a series of series. So there's, I think 3 or 4 different trilogies within this overall Farseer world, or this overarching plot in this world. I don't know. There's 3 or 4 different trilogies. This is the first book in the first trilogy, and I'm excited to see what my reaction to this one is. I expect it to be positive just based on how beloved this is and things that people kind of say about this one. I'm expecting that I'm really going to like this. So this one is I'm literally going to start this afternoon because I need to get going on it. So I have this one. The other series that people are always kind of agitating me to try is Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn. And I was very conflicted about this because I've not enjoyed, I love you all, but I've not always enjoyed the interactions I've had with people about Brandon Sanderson because there's this feeling of you just need to read the right one and you'll like it. I'm going to politely, but firmly ignore those suggestions because literally every single comment has a different theory of the case about which one you should start with. I'm going to start with what I think is his most well-known or popular series here on BookTube. I also own all 3 of this trilogy in physical form. So higher priority for me to get to it because there's some level of pressure of this is taking up space on my bookshelves. I need to figure out what I want to do with them. So I'm going to read this first one, and I am trepidatious about this because I didn't have a great first outing with Brandon Sanderson. I think I know what his sort of tone is a little bit more now. So I think I will be better able to pick a good mood to read this, but I'm going to keep my expectations pretty low because I'm hoping if I keep my expectations low, they will not be disappointed. So those are the 2 that people have been very much when are you going to read this? And then there's another 2 that I want to read for a different reason. So I have definitely heard about The Witcher over the last few years here on the bookish internet. This is a very well-loved fantasy series, but there's also been a Netflix show that recently came out about this. So this has sort of bumped this up in my curiosity level of it, and I already owned this first book. This first book is a collection of short stories, which to me is a really big pro. I love short stories, and I love trying authors for the first time with short stories. So I know some people feel don't read the short story collection, read the first full novel. I don't think that for me that would be the best strategy because actually it's a bonus to me that the first encounter with this world is short stories. So I've had this and I want to read it. And then the other series, and I hope it's actually arriving today, but the other series that I want to actually do a reread of, because I tried this book back in either my first year of college, is, I think it's called The Eye of the World, but it's the first book in Robert Jordan's The Wheel of Time series. And the reason I would like to reread this as an adult is that my impression when I first read that book was, oh, well, this is just like Lord of the Rings, and I like Lord of the Rings a lot better. Why would I read this? That was kind of my takeaway from it, which I think was probably uncharitable. It probably was also fueled by the fact that I had very recently finished Lord of the Rings. And I will tell you that I am someone who, I think reading the Lord of the Rings relatively early in my fantasy journey may have hurt my ability to like some of these big popular fantasy series, because I very often, like, I tried several of them in college, and always my thought was like, this is just like Tolkien, but just not as good. And I think it's been helpful to me that in recent years, there's been a lot more diversity in kind of the types of settings of fantasy and the kind of creatures that get featured, etc. But all that to say, I think that was probably an uncharitable reading, and probably tempered by the fact that I had so recently read what is like a top 10 favorite book for me of all time. So I would like to retry this just because it is such a beloved series in fantasy. And I think that there's going to be a series adaptation of it coming out sometime soon. So I would just like basically to have like a refreshed perspective on that particular book at least. And even if I don't keep going in the series, I am almost confident that I will like it better than I liked it back then. So I'm excited to give that one a try as well. So yeah, so this is just going to be a vlog of me reading those 4 books. And my goal by the end of this is to decide like which of these I'm interested in continuing in the series with, which I kind of like want to leave to the side. And generally just like I want to have tried 4 classics of this genre and, you know, kind of figure out what my future with those series are. So let's get into it. Haha, see, I told you. It was on its way today. So I have The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. So I can tuck into this one as well. I've got all 4 books. And like I said, I think the first one's going to be Assassin's Apprentice. Actually, I think I'm going to try to make some progress on that one today. So I will check in with you guys based on how that goes. So it's later the same day, and I am officially tucking in with this. Pretty much in between my editing software keeping crashing. I'm reading this while I wait to reboot. Basically my computer just doesn't have, oh, cute. Well, good to know my eyebrows are all over the place. Basically, my computer just doesn't have enough juice to run my editing software in terms of like the amount of memory that's available. Frustrating, but I've been saving up BookTube money, and I've got a new computer on order with enough memory to handle it. So that'll be here in a couple weeks. Anyway, you don't care about that. I'm in between. I'm going to get started with this. And I'm really excited because Leanna just IM'd me and told me that she finished all of it yesterday in one sitting, and she just thought it was great. And she said she thinks I'm going to like it. Something I've realized is that me and Leanna actually have very similar taste on a book-to-book basis. So like, we don't necessarily have the most similar taste in terms of overall genres that we read, but we are very similar in terms of if she likes a book that I'm also interested in, there's a very good chance I will also like it. So wish me luck. I'm excited. Hey guys, so I have to pause and go to yoga, but I just wanted to tell you, I'm really enjoying this one so far. Light. It's really, really good. I can totally see already why it's a classic. I am so invested in Sweet Baby Fitz. I'm having very similar vibes with him as I do with Murderbot of like, nobody loves you, but you're lovable. So anyway, I'm hoping I can come back and actually polish it off because I'm getting through it pretty quickly. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it so far. Well, hey, I am back. I had to take a quick break. Not so quick actually, because it was an hour and a half, but I took a break to go to yoga, though I did have an amazing moment in this one because I was like in my deep relaxation state, and the instructor came over to like help me get deeper into a pose, but I was like dead to the world, borderline asleep, so she scared the shit out of me, so I like jumped and like knocked her, and it was not very zen. But Assassin's Apprentice, before I left to go to class, was really enjoying it. I really like it a lot. It reminds me a lot of the same kind of vibes as like a Tamora Pierce, like a 90s fantasy, which I mean it is, but like the kind of fantasies I read when I was growing up, where It's very character driven and the world is not that interesting, but I'm into the character so much that that's okay. So poor sweet baby Fitz is actually kind of reminding me a lot of Jane Eyre in terms of the kind of dynamic of coming of age, orphaned functionally, and sort of an inconvenience to everyone around him. And he's so lonely, and his animals. Yeah, I don't know. I'm really liking it so far. So if I was guessing right now, it'd be like a 4-star read. I'm about 150 pages in. So I'm going to keep reading. Maybe I'll be able to finish it tonight. We'll see. I'll let you guys know. But yeah, I'm really digging this one. If I were guessing, I would say that I'm going to continue in this series based on what I've read so far. So first one is going really well. Well, hey guys, it has been a long, hard day at work. I also went and picked up my new computer, which I'm so excited about because I'm hoping it will just make the entire YouTubing process better. But it is processing right now, and I think it will be processing for quite some time. So it is time to return to Assassin's Apprentice, which I was really enjoying. I just basically knew I wanted to have like focused time with it, and it would be a few days until I could do that. So I'm excited to dive back in. Let's see how I do. I'm hoping I can polish this off tonight. I have to go to yoga again, but I'm hoping I can polish it off. Hey, so I didn't end up finishing Assassin's Apprentice last night because I basically just got distracted by my shiny new computer / going to yoga, but I did make good progress and I'm going to finish it up today. Where we are in terms of my thoughts on it, I'm thinking this is going to be like a 4-star book, probably not a 4.5 or a 5, but I'm really enjoying it. It is though a lot of like build up and like kind of opening, like the beginning of a tale. It's like setting the table. So I think for that reason, pacing wise, sometimes I'm not loving it, but in terms of the characters, Fitz, he's my heart. I love him so much. Burke, I think, is a really interesting and sort of like tragic character. I'm very intrigued by chivalry. Maybe I've missed it and maybe it's going to get explained in the rest of the book. I'm still not totally clear on why he like immediately had to abdicate. So I'm hoping that like we're going to get more information about that at some point. I don't know. Fuck Galen and the horse he rode in on. And then I love that Hodd, is it Hodd or Hobb? Hodd, I think. I love that she is like a lady and teaches sword stuff. That's fun. Shade, good times. Shade, not sure. Anyway, I really enjoy it. I went ahead and grabbed the audiobook from my library, so I'm actually hoping I can finish this up while I'm working today. But yeah, so far, like my first book for this project, very, very big success, I think. I thought I was gonna like it, but you just never know. So I'm very happy that I'm liking it as much as I hoped I might. It is, I think, about a week since we've talked. I finally finished Assassin's Apprentice. This is the kind of book I don't normally read that much during the week. It's more of like a weekend book for me. So while I was waiting for some videos to upload, I went ahead and polished it off, and I really, really liked it. Now, I do think that it has some problems in terms of it's a first book in a series, and I do think there's not always so much plot happening, and I think the world is a little bit boring, but I love a character-driven fantasy, and that is exactly what this is. It was just like real satisfying, very enjoyable. I know Leanna also liked it. We were doing a buddy read, and it was a totally positive experience. Okay, guys, so gotta love the glare in the glasses. Would not be a vlog without me having a little bit of that. And for people who asked, it's because I have a protective lens coat on my glasses to help me with blue screen, like not irritating my eyes. It's a thing you're apparently supposed to have on all your glasses, but it does make it annoying for light sources and film. Side note. So today we are starting on book number 2 of this project, and that is Mistborn. So mindset going into this one is I feel like I'm in a no-win situation, because if I like it, then people are going to be pressuring me to continue. If I don't like it, I'm going to have people telling me the third book I need to try to like it. I think I'm really gonna try to just go into this neutral, because like the number one way to get me to not do what you want is to try to pressure me to do it. So I'm pretty resistant to that. So I need to just go in with like, whatever this is, it is. And the thing is, I'm expecting that I should like this. Like, I got the whole trilogy in hardback because I was excited about it and like I've heard good things. So like I am going to just go into this expecting to like it. I am going to try to put the royal use response out of my mind. So I'm going to just go into this blank. I think I'm going to listen to audio because I am in the middle of doing a big house reorganization, basically, because I have some new furniture arriving. The couch that I'm sitting on, I just moved into my office. I've had it for 11 years. Still in good shape. So it's going to come live in my office, but I'm getting a new sofa and a new reading chair for out in my main area. I've done like most of the not fun parts of reorganizing the house. Like I've like reorganized where all the Christmas decorations are and where all the luggage lives and etc. And so then I moved these bookshelves that were on this wall to this wall. So I'm in the middle of reshelving. So I'm going to listen to the audio through Scribd whilst I shelf. So wish me luck. And I guess maybe I'll set you guys up and you can watch me reshelve. I don't know if you guys care about that, but we'll do that. Fun moment with Scribd. So I went to start the audiobook and for some reason it was available like minutes ago and now it won't let me play it. I don't know. So I'm not going to be able to start the audio. So stay tuned for when I start reading this physically. Love that. Hello. I just brushed my hair for the first time in honestly probably a year. And look at the fluff monster. I have so much hair. It's not even funny. Okay, sorry. Anyway, I was just going to mention that I have been so sick recently. I have felt like actual human garbage. And so I have not been doing anything other than comfort reading exactly whatever I'm in the mood to comfort read. But, all that to say, I've made no progress on Mistborn because I don't really want to read it. Like, that's what it boils down to. I'm dreading it, even though I'm trying to, like, keep an open mind. But a book that I do want to read is Last Wish. And I'm going on vacation tomorrow. Kind of vacation, kind of sad. We're going to be sprinkling my father's ashes, but we are going to be sprinkling them in Cabo. So if nothing else, I'm going to get some nice sun. So the two physical books I'm packing, first of all, I'm packing Get a Life, Chloe Brown, which I'm very excited about. I've heard basically nothing but great things. Contemporary romance. And I'm packing The Last Wish. This I'm very excited for. I wanted to read this prior to the adaptation coming out, but the adaptation and everybody loving this and talking more about this has made me even more excited to get to it. So I'm going to be taking this. I also have the second book, which I think is Blood of the Elves, as an ebook. So if I just love this and want to keep going, I can. Yeah, I'm feeling good about this one. I think I'm optimistic. I'm hoping this is one I'm going to be really into. So that is the next book. See you in Cabo. Okay, so I did make some good progress on the plane on The Last Wish, and I am very much into it so far. Love the first story. Loved it. If it keeps on this track, this could easily be a 4.5 or 5-star book. I just love the thematic content of it. I like the way that the story was told. The writing is really nice. Yeah, very into it so far, so hopefully that continues. It's a hard life here in Cabo. Hey, so I am back in the US today and I just got Mistborn on audio from my library. So I think I'm gonna start listening to that. I'm still in progress on Last Wish. I'm enjoying it a lot, but right now I'm about to do some editing, and in stage 1 of editing, I can listen to audiobooks. So I am gonna go ahead and start Mistborn now that I actually have it as audio. Not Lucy and the Football with Scribd. That was very annoying. I got this from my library, so I'm hoping I can get at least 20% of the way through Mistborn on audio to help me get into it. And then I'm thinking I'll be able to kind of be in the flow and read it physically. That's kind of my thought process. So wish me luck. Okay, so update. Went and got a haircut. Had her give me somewhat of a straight blowout. It's kind of weird. I've not seen my hair straight like this in a very long time, but whatever. Did errands, I did some editing, and I did manage to listen to like a third of the audiobook. And guys, I am so happy to tell you that I'm actually quite enjoying the first book in Mistborn, which is The Final Empire. I'm getting into it. So I don't know that I just like love this or really understand yet why this is so beloved. The magic system is cool. Like, it's cool. I'll give you that. I don't know. Maybe it's going to get more exciting. But I'm very into the plot of this. And I really like Vin as a character. I'm most engaged when her story is sort of in the forefront or whatever. But I'm just so excited that I'm liking this so much better than when I tried to read Warbreaker. It's working a lot better for me. So I'm definitely excited to keep going. I am enjoying it as audio, so I may go ahead and just leave it as an audio read for me for now. Like, I don't want to jinx it. I'm a little afraid to switch to physical. Plus tomorrow I'm going to be doing a big house clean, so that will coincide nicely with listening to an audiobook. So I'm excited, guys, that I'm enjoying this. In terms of specifically what's happening, I am intrigued about the whole like planning a rebellion thing. And I like that, at least as of now, where things stand, it's like a year out, this rebellion that's going to happen. And I like that. I don't know that I've read a lot of fantasy books with that kind of plot where they're like, oh no, we need like a full year to do this. So that's cool. I always enjoy sort of like a school or learning plot. So then learning about her alchemancy, is that what it's called? Those skills is cool to me. I do think it's a little cartoonish sometimes in some of the characterization of bad people, but I think that that's something that's not necessarily that unusual. So I don't know that that's like a specific failing of Brandon Sanderson, but so far I'm not seeing a lot of like nuanced depictions of motivations, but I'm enjoying the story so far. So at this point, I'm just very happy to report that. Okay, so checking in, I have read or listened to, I guess, a little bit more of the audiobook, but not all that much. But today I have a big block of time at work where I'm going to be just like doing some admin-y things to catch up. So I am hoping I can make, a good little chunk of progress today. So wish me luck. I'm wrapping up my work for the day, so I thought I would check in. So my thoughts. I am enjoying this. Like, I'm actually quite just having a good time with this book. I think what this is making me wonder, because honestly, I'm like, I think that I would give this 4 stars the same way I gave Assassin's Apprentice 4 stars. But I am significantly less interested in keeping going with these books than I am for the Robin Hobb one because of reasons I'm trying to articulate. So I think some of it is that this series, what I'm interested in, is very much just like enjoying the plot kind of as it comes. It's just sort of like a fun book. I'm not that invested in the characters. Like, I really, like, Vin is definitely the one I'm most invested in, but even she is pretty flat. Like, I don't know. I think Kelsier is probably a more rounded character, but I'm not as interested in him. So I think I'm often in fantasy, I like it to be quite character driven. And this is one where I just don't have the same connection to the characters in this as I did to, for example, Fitz in Assassin's Apprentice, or even Witcher Dude, whatever, I forget what that guy's name is, but Witcher Dude, I'm much more into him than I am into any of these characters. I do think the world building is cool, or the magic system is cool, but I'm not as blown away by that as I kind of was expecting to be. The writing I don't think is great. I think it's fine, and actually better than I thought it might be, just based on some comments I'd seen. The writing is fine, but it's nothing that is super drawing me in. So this is kind of functioning as like, yeah, like, I'm into this. Like, I'm always happy when I have a few moments to get back to the audiobook. I've read a little bit of it physically on some evenings. Like, I'm always happy to get back to it, and I'm enjoying it. I kind of want to see how it leaves off. Maybe if it leaves off on like a big cliffhanger that I'm like super edge of my seat excited for, maybe I'll be more intrigued to keep going. For now, I'm like, depending on how this ends, I could see me just like enjoying this book and kind of leaving it at that. Or maybe just not making the follow-ups a super high priority, because I do own the next 2 books in the series. So maybe just sort of like, hey, when I'm in the mood for some like epic fantasy, I think, yeah, maybe when I'm realizing that if a book doesn't have something extra in high fantasy, to really draw me in terms of the characters or in terms of just like uniqueness or writing. Like if it doesn't have that something extra, I can enjoy it, but it's not like super compelling to me. I don't know if any of that made sense, because I'm trying to understand. I'm like, yeah, no, it's not that I'm not having a good time in this, but I'm not super intrigued to continue. I don't know. Okay, so I'll check back in with you guys once I finish up and we can talk about where I land with it. Maybe there's going to be some like crazy twist ending that's just going to like blow my mind hole and I'll have to keep going. Okay, I finished. So I switched from the audio to the physical book permanently at about the 60 or 70% mark. So I just finished this up. Okay, thoughts. I'm somewhere between a 3.5 and a 4 star. And I'm very conflicted about if I'm going to continue this now that I've read the ending, because I like where I'm leaving this cast of characters. I'm not sure my enjoyment of the story would be enhanced, honestly, by reading more. I like where Vin has landed. I like where the people who survived this have landed. So I don't know if I'm going to keep reading. I will say, okay, so things that I liked about this. I ultimately did quite like the character of Vin. And surprising no one, I also liked the little relationship she had going with Elend. I also really liked the idea of the Terracemen, and kind of like what their people were about. And I really liked Cezad as the keeper of all religions, like essentially as a walking, talking Wikipedia of religions to preserve that knowledge after the Lord Ruler. So I liked that. I mostly like the vibe of the crew aspect, like, kind of a heist gang of thieves type deal. I tend to like that as sort of a vibe in a book. I thought that the training sequences were not that great. Like, I tend to like that in a book, and these were fine, but not super memorable. What I'll tell you, I did not like, I really did not like what Kelsier's ultimate plan was. I think it's kind of bullshit. Now, I'm not saying that I'm not making the argument that like it wasn't set up or that it didn't make sense, whatever. In terms of just my satisfaction with that as a plan, I did not find it satisfying. I found it to be bullshit. So in that sense, that was a little bit of a letdown. And then in terms of where the story could go, I don't know. I kind of just like leaving it here. I will say that I had a lot more, like, I guess maybe my abiding impression of this is that, like, I had a good time whilst reading this. I enjoyed this as my audio pick for the last week or so. I didn't have, like, a bad time with this, nor did I have, though, a super compelling time with this. So I think for now, we're going to say that I would give this a 3.5, 4 star. I'll see at the end of this video, or like, in the next couple of days, kind of how I'm feeling about it. And, so I had a good time with it, but I wouldn't say it's like a new favorite. In contrast to the book that I'm about to get back to, which is The Last Wish, I think that could be a new favorite. I really was into what I read of it, so I'm looking forward to getting back to that, and I'm honestly kind of dreading getting to The Eye of the World. Because people, like, I hauled it in a recent video, and people were leaving comments about it, and I was like, oh yeah, that's what I hated about that book when I read it the first time. So I don't know how that one's gonna go. We'll see. Let's make that future Mara's problem, and for now, we'll just worry about here in the next day or two me getting back into The Last Wish, because I really was enjoying that, and I think that's gonna be one that really works for me if it keeps going the way it is. So stay tuned. Oh my gosh, guys, okay. It's been a day. I thought I had my laundry machines fully blocked off from kitten invasion. Oh, since we last talked, I got kittens. They're real cute. I thought I'd fully blocked that off, but they're Houdinis, and they found a way back there and gave their mom a real big scare. So I just spent the last hour and a half like taping that down like there's no tomorrow. I'm sure they will still find a way to try to get back there, but like, it's all I can do for right now. So, with that being said, I deserve some fun. So I'm going to curl up. I'm going to get in the bath. I'm going to read a little bit of this. I was really enjoying it. I just put it down basically. So it's been been 3 or 4 weeks since I picked this back up. I'm hoping I can like get on a roll with it and polish it off because I was enjoying it. So let's see. Well, we meet again. When last we talked, I think I was just not feeling very well. Since then, I had emergency surgery and I am now recovering and I'm living under quarantine. So many things have changed. But anyway, I did just finish The Last Wish. It's the first book I've been able to bring myself to read in like 10 days. And I really, really liked it. Yeah, 4 stars, 4.5, somewhere in there. I really enjoyed this. I really love the parable quality or like fairy tale quality to it. I actually think, and maybe this is just because I'm used to reading Angela Carter, like there's a feminist as fuck reading of this that I really enjoy in terms of just like so many of these creatures are women who are monsters, but like, are they the monsters? Yeah, I just think that's interesting. I like the relationship between Geralt and Nineke and like that whole priestess thing. It ends on a really interesting kind of cliffhanger thing. So yeah, I think I will definitely continue in the series, and I really did like this. I think just by virtue of the fact of how I ended up having to read this, which was over a very long period of time, I think I didn't end up loving it as much as I would have if I think I'd just been able to kind of sit down and get through it. But I still really enjoyed this. So I would say probably of the books I've read, this is probably my favorite. Yeah, I think that's fair. This is my favorite of the 3 so far. So got this one done, and then in theory my next one up is The Eye of the World, and I'm not really looking forward to that, so we'll see if I can get myself to read it. But at least I finally finished The Last Wish. That feels like an accomplishment because I just kept lingering with it. So okay guys, I am still on bed rest and got some time today because nobody's going anywhere and I'm definitely not. So I'm gonna start The Eye of the World. I don't know how I feel about this, to be totally honest with you. So I'm trying to go into this with as open a mind as possible because I do know that I read this as like, I think maybe like a freshman in college, something like that age-ish, like 18, 19. And I just was so annoyed that it felt like such a Tolkien ripoff. I've heard a lot of people say like, yeah, the first one is kind of that way, but if you keep reading, they like get better and better, which may be the case, but I'm going to tell you right here and right now, I am not waiting. How many pages is this? Like 700 pages. I'm not reading 700 pages for it to start not feeling that way. So, I am going to probably have a pretty high standard in terms of like, would I continue in this series because it's long, it's chunky, and anyway, I'm trying to put that out of my mind and just enjoy this book as is. If I can kind of appreciate it for what it's trying to do on its own terms now that I have more distance from having, because I read this like freshly having read The Lord of the Rings. So like, I'm wondering now that I've had some like time and distance, if I can like appreciate it for its own nuances. So yeah, anyway, wish me luck. I'm about to dig on into this, and who knows, maybe I'm going to end up really getting into this and I'll have like thousands of pages worth of book to continue to enjoy. So we'll see. Okay guys, it has taken me probably an hour to read about 25 pages of this, and that is because this writing is a real struggle bus for me. I'm remembering, like, even just from this, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, like, I'm remembering why this does have a little bit of a Lord of the Rings vibe to it. I'm actually not mad at, like, the plot so far, and, like, the characters seem okay. I mean, like, I've only gotten a taste, but this writing is, like, I'm really struggling to get through it. So I'm gonna force myself to read at least 100 pages of this. If I can't get into the flow of the writing, I can't foresee myself making myself read 700 pages if it's this painful to read. It's not, I should be clear. It's not that it's like, how to say, it's overly described, it's repetitious, it's trying to get a certain sort of like old-timey fantasy quality into it in a way that to me just is not ringing true. Like, in contrast to Robb and Hobb, for example, where I was talking about how the writing in that one I think is actually quite beautiful, and there is a certain sort of like verisimilitude to having like this sort of older, like medieval-y kind of vibe to it, something that I think Tolkien achieves pretty organically. That's also just by virtue of the fact that he was writing in an earlier time, and that was a little bit, that more like mannered style was a little bit more organic to his natural way of speaking or writing. this feels really contrived. And so sometimes when there's a specific style, it does take a little bit to get into it. So, you know, I'm going to give it 100 pages and see if I can kind of get into the flow a little bit. But if we're talking about, like, I'd heard Brandon Sanderson's writing was not great, and this was what I was imagining for that. So yeah, we'll see how I do. You know, good old Rand Althor, he's shown back up. There's a dude in black that his friend Matt has seen also. So, like, you know, we're getting some of the plot stuff going. The prologue in particular was quite melodramatic, and so maybe if I'd skipped that, I would have not been as bothered by the writing. I don't know. Anyway, I am going to make myself keep going, but for right now, it's not a very auspicious beginning to this little process. Guys, it has been hours, and I've finally made it to, like, the 100-ish page mark, and I'm done. Like, I can't read any more of this. So here's the deal. I will tell you that actually I'm glad I did this, because I am much more open. Like, I think that this is going to be an adaptation I'm going to like, because I believe that they are doing, like, a mini-series or like, I think this is getting adapted. I think I'll be into the adaptation. This also I see why at the time I read this, I was like, this is just Tolkien ripoff. There's some of that. There definitely is. But the problem is not any of that. The problem is the writing. The writing I find just unreadable. And it's not that it is, it's not, how to say this? I don't think that this will be a problem for everyone, but for me, the style of this is so grating. It's stylistically, it's a lot of simple declarative sentences that are packed with too many adjectives, and it creates a pacing that I find really difficult to read. So for that reason, I cannot continue in this. Like, I just, for the sake of a challenge, am not going to read 600 more pages of this, because guys, I'm not joking you. It has taken me 5 hours to read 100 pages, because it's just so, I find it so off-putting. I keep putting it down. So I'm not going to continue, but I'm glad that I tried again, because I feel much more comfortable recommending this to people. Like, I think if that didn't bother you, this seems like a perfectly fun, like, rompy kind of fantasy. And like I said, I actually am open, like, I'd be into watching an adaptation of this, I think. Like, I'll watch it whenever it comes out. I just don't want to read it. Like, I can't read this prose anymore. Like, I cannot. So, goodbye to The Eye of the World. I gave it my best shot, and actually the reasons I ended up DNFing it were not the reasons I thought that I might not like it. So, I had my opinion revised, and, yeah. So I think that actually does it. Those are my 4 books. I've done it. So I will meet you guys back for a wrap up, and talk about, I guess, kind of where I've landed with each of the 4 books, and what I've learned about my taste as a fantasy reader now that I have read or attempted to read 4 first books in series of 4 classic fantasy series. Okay, friends, let's bring this all back together. So, at the beginning of my mission, I set out to read 4 first books in series from 4, like, classic fantasy series / fantasy authors. So I had The Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb, which is the first in her Farseer trilogy. Then we had The Last Wish by Andrej Sapkowski, which is point 5 in the series of the Witcher series. So this is like a prequel short story collection kind of deal. So that was number 2. Number 3 was The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson, which is the first in his original Mistborn trilogy, and the first in the overall, like, Cosmere Mistborn verse. So that was the 3rd one. And then last, we have The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan, which is the first in the Wheel of Time series. So I would say overall, pretty positive outing with these. I would say of the 4, there's really only one of them that I just, like, straight up didn't like. So it's like a 75% hit rate. The one that I straight up didn't like, let's just talk about it and get it out of the way. The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. You guys saw. Writing style / authorial voice is one of the number 1 things that will get me to DNF something. Because even if I don't like a plot, if I'm okay with the writing and like the characters okay, I can kind of get through it. Similarly, if I don't like the characters, but I do like the plot and the writing, I can get through it. But even though I'm actually not mad at the plot or characters per se in this, the writing just did not work for me at all. I do feel better now knowing though kind of what this is, and I feel like I know who I could recommend this to. I wouldn't like steer people away from this necessarily. It just was like really not for me. So like I think I mentioned, I would be interested in watching an adaptation because like I said, the characters and plot I wasn't necessarily mad at, but I wasn't into the writing. So this is the only real failure of the three of them, or the four of them rather. Of the others, I would say, let's see, in order of enjoyment, because I would say I ended up feeling like this was between a 3.5 and a 4. This was a 4, and this was between a 4 and a 4.5. So Mistborn, would I continue in the series? I'm gonna say maybe. I think I mentioned this, I'm sure I mentioned this in the vlog. I actually quite like where this ends up. So I'm not that incentivized to continue in the series because I kind of like this as a standalone. That being said, I do own the next 2 books. So like, I definitely wouldn't rule it out. It's just not necessarily something that's going to be a super high priority for me, but I would call this a very successful reading experience because I've left with a much more positive impression of Sanderson than I had with my previous attempt. So I feel good that I've had a positive experience. So, and I feel like I get the vibe, I get kind of like why people like this so much. So 3.5, 4 stars, somewhere in there. Enjoyed, but don't necessarily know if I'd continue. These 2 I will definitely continue in. I've already gotten more of this. So actually, that's interesting. I would say I like this book better, but I'm more interested in continuing in this series. So we'll talk about it. So this, what really sold me on Assassin's Apprentice was the writing, kind of in contrast, in contrast to The Eye of the World. The writing and the characters in this, I loved. The plot was only so-so to me, but I loved the writing so much, and it was so attached to Fitz that kind of overcame it for me. I think this book leaves off in a good place for the rest of the series to pick up. Like, I can totally see how the rest of the series ends up being like more interesting or action-packed. So I'm actually very eager to continue. I have subsequently bought the next 2 books in this trilogy. They are big, like, door stoppers, so they will be a project to get through. But yeah, I was really into this. Very glad I read it. Leanna, I buddy read this with her. She was also very into it. So yeah, all around, this was definitely the one I think I'm most intrigued to continue in the series because I was so attached to the characters. Whereas this one, ooh, did you see that dramatic shift of the sun there? This one, I liked this as a book better. I'm less like chomping at the bit to continue in the series just because it didn't necessarily leave me in a place where I was like, ooh, I have to know what happens next. I think what I'm going to do, and even though I know the Netflix series covers both this and the next book, I think I'm going to go ahead and watch the Netflix series and kind of, I'm thinking it might whet my appetite to keep going in the books a little bit more. But the writing in this I just really loved. I really enjoyed the fairy tale quality to it. And I don't know if it's just me reading what I want to read into it, but I read this as quite subversive in terms of its gender stuff. So I'm always down for that. So anyway, this was definitely the winner, but I would say this was the winner on an individual book level. This was the winner in terms of like most excited to continue. But overall, I will say now I have sampled 4 more classic high fantasy series. And what can we take from this? I think I have realized that writing quality is pretty important to me in a fantasy series. Like if it's going to be a big commitment, I want that to be pretty nice. I do think I'm somebody who I continue to see that character is quite important to me in terms of enjoyment in the series, probably more so than plot. As long as the plot is like fine and the magic system is like at least decently interesting, like that's enough for me. So I think I've learned that. Yeah, just overall, I'm glad that I did this. I feel like I've expanded some of my kind of like vocabulary or familiarity with like really well-loved series. And I'm glad that I can kind of like have an opinion and path forward. I think that will do it for this vlog. So definitely let me know what you guys think of any of these books. If you love some of these series or hate them or whatever, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And yeah, I think that will do it. So if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, follow me on the social medias if you are so inclined. I have all that information listed in the description box below. And I think that will do it. I hope you are having an absolutely lovely day today, and I will just talk to you soon. Bye!